Unfortunately, this book is on probably the only 1-star read I've read this month. I don't want to just like start out hating on a book because I don't like to do that. I feel like if I put myself in the author's shoes and just think about the fun I had to write this book, the idea I wanted to do, these characters I love. So I don't feel comfortable just hating on a book. But I can give my opinion and say I didn't like it. Because, I'm sorry, it was just so boring. It was just boring. This was the first time this year that I had to force myself to keep reading. And I love the premise, the idea of the story. Like, the very first, 1 to 5 chapters, maybe. Let's call it that. About the first 20 pages or so, I guess. The world building and the magic Reaper-like system. And I loved how each chapter has a moon symbol above the number to let us know what phase the day is in, because that's important to what they do. But unfortunately, sometimes even that stopped making sense, because sometimes the moon phase would be like impossible. Like for me, I keep full track of the moon phases. Like, so one day in the book, it would constantly, go up to a full moon, and it would be a full moon, and something would happen on that day. And it would be a full moon. And then the next day, it would be like quarter, half moon. And then the day after that, it would be back to a full moon. And the events in the book only took place either across the same day or the next day. And, each full moon is 28, 29 days. It's almost impossible for that to show it like that, but at the same time, I understand that it's just, a motive to be cool. And so I ignored it. But realistically, if you had to wait till every full moon to do something, then you would literally be waiting until every month. So there would be a chapter, unless they skipped ahead and said a month later, but there would be a lot of time where nothing would happen. But that's just a minor detail I could overlook because I thought the idea was cool. And that's what I'm talking about, especially when it comes to fantasy books. Like, you are able to turn your brain off and just slip away into this world that the author has made up. But that only works if you like the idea. And I did, until the two main characters met up. Then it took a huge dive for me. And I like all the main characters by themselves. It's when they interact that I started having a problem. Bastion, okay? His story was compelling in the beginning. This isn't a spoiler because it's like the inciting incident, what drives the story. His father was killed by one of these things when he was young. So now he's on a revenge to kill one. I'm totally invested in his revenge because it's totally warranted. If you're chilling one day and somebody comes up, lures your father away and kills him, you have every right to be angry and want to get justice for your father. It's common sense. But I don't like how they try to put it on him as if he's doing something wrong. And they're trying to convince him that what she did was right. And it's not like he was a bad person or a murderer or something. It was just some rando person that she had to kill for a ritual. And you come to find out that it's probably don't even have to do that. It's just something they came up with as a ritual. But you could still do the thing without having to kill the person. But I totally agree with his part of the story. And that's the story I would have wanted to see, was him actually get revenge. But when we meet the other main character, we're supposed to be all, oh no, don't kill her, because we're supposed to like her. But again, I think it's completely justified. We're supposed to just convince him to let it go because it's just what they do. Like, oh, okay, yeah, you murdered my dad and I've been angry about it for my whole life, but since you asked so nicely, I'll just let it go. Like, come on now. All of that gets derailed because she is hot. And I'm not kidding. The instant he sees her, it's like, wow, what am I doing? I can't kill her. She's hot, and then this is a constant thing throughout the book. And I think we should even feel bad for Jules, who is hinted at the beginning, his best friend, that they had a thing together. They just weren't able to actually find the right time to get together. But they still very much care about each other. And they did want to be a thing. They kiss and whatever. Eilis comes along. And then they try to make Jules unlikable on purpose so they could push her out of their relationship. Now that they have these two new characters. And she gets And just the way it happens is like almost cruel, where they're like, oh, I don't even know why you even try to like him. He's my soulmate. I don't even know the guy, but he wants me over you, and this keeps going throughout the book. It's pretty bad because he's like, oh yeah, she is kind of hot, and it kind of ignores the fact that they were having a thing. And then Jules gets kind of jealous. And can you blame her, though? This girl just comes out of nowhere, takes this guy that, has been yours forever, and it's like, he's like, oh, he's mine now. Don't worry about it. You don't even need to try. I'm sorry, what? I understand that it was angle for the love triangle. And I usually don't like love triangles, but in this one, I thought it was an interesting dynamic. I enjoy how he kind of got thrown in between these two women, and they were kind of catty about it. And he has, one on the left, one on the right, and they're kind of bitchy at him because he hasn't really decided. I thought that was a fun and funny dynamic. It's also that the pacing was a little too fast. Like, it wouldn't let me settle on the sentences. It was like, someone threw a thing, someone died, I tripped, I ran. Hey, we're next door now. I pulled out a blanket. Like, what? Give me a second to imagine these scenes before the next one happens. But I can't really say anything. I write like that, so. I noticed I kept coming up with excuses to do something else besides read this book. A big problem I had that I noticed with it is that there was too many coincidences that happened just to set the plot going forward. Like, something was always there at the right place at the right time. It kind of bugs me when you have two separate groups, right? And they're both making plans, but they don't know that they're going to meet up later on. It's just that when they happen to enact this plan, they both happen to enact it at the same time, and they both run into each other at the same time. And, like, there's no way the other party would have... Like, what if they were a day earlier or a day later? Then they wouldn't have met up. You see what I'm saying? It's like, what are the chances that they both make a plan, and then they both do the plan the exact week from now? It's almost slim to none. This book, I want to say, is very character-driven. It's... I don't know. I mean, I usually like character-driven books, but I guess I don't like when it's just one or the other. I like to see both. And the world building here was a very strong suit of it for me. The magic system was amazing. This idea that they had to go kill 3 animals and collect their bones to get power of those certain animals. Like, that's pretty much how the book starts. It's not a spoiler. It's part of their ritual to become a fully fledged one. And it makes me want to know more. But this world building thing gets pushed aside to focus on what the characters want. Thus that makes it character driven. But we've already established that I don't like the direction they took with the compelling part of the characters. And I know a lot of people like Sabine more. She did have the most character growth. It was cool to watch her go from, weak to accepting her place. But she just does a lot of running around in the background. Miscommunication is another one of those tropes they play on in this book. And even though I did like her, I will admit that if she was taken out of the book, it probably wouldn't have affected anything. She seemed kind of irrelevant at the end. Especially when she goes through this whole mission to get her friend back, who she thinks is being tortured and scared for her life or whatever. And she gets there, and her friend's just fine. And she's like, "Oh, never mind. We're cool now." It's like, she went that way for nothing. She went through this whole thing for nothing. And there's this awkward fight scene at the end. Maybe it's just that it's got all my hated tropes in this book. Not all of them, but a lot of recognizable ones. Like, another one would be that all the adults are bad. Hate that trope. Your main cast is all teenagers, and their battle is to battle a bunch of evil grown-ups who just don't understand them. Or have become too jaded that they don't care about people anymore. I don't like that trope. But I know all teenagers feel misunderstood, and these are YA books, and they're edgy, and I just don't like it. Especially, because it's all about, like, her trying to say, "Oh, I'm better than you because I make better choices as a child," or something like that. It's not right. The biggest problem, though, was the whole plot being derailed by the "oh crap, she's hot" thing. To me, everyone's attractive in their own way. And you can go day by day and see people who are somewhat attractive, very much attractive, or a little attractive. It shouldn't affect you in any way. It shouldn't deter you from what you're doing. You can just notice it and go on with your day. It shouldn't affect your whole life by seeing one attractive person. I'd never make it through a day if I lived in this book. Another thing about the magic system is the whole collecting bones for power thing was really cool. And one of the best parts. You know, you wanted to see what kind of person would have what kind of animal if you had to choose. It's almost like a totem. When you think about it really hard, I don't want to say too hard, when you think about it in general, a lot of animals have other animals' powers. And they even mention this. Like, there's one who has night vision, but another animal has night vision. Practically all the cat families have night vision. You can get, speed from a lot of the same kind of animals, birds or whatever. And they even kind of make a joke about this. They're like, it's not really a joke, but they're like, why would you waste your time trying to fight this horrible, hard animal when you could have got the same abilities from this easy little animal? And, but she's just like, oh, that's just my personality. I want to fight the best. And they just have an excuse for her to fight that animal. But when you think about it really hard, it was just you can get these same powers. A lot of the animals have the same powers to choose from. They can't technically fly or do things that humans can't do, but their senses can be enhanced, shall I say. So there's not that many things that can happen to you. Anyway, it's a shame because the cover of this book is so gorgeous. It really is gorgeous. Like, that's the whole reason I picked out this book. The title sounded mysterious, the synopsis caught me, the art was amazing, the cover was great. I really wanted to like this book. I did. This might be one of the only times that I have no interest in reading the sequel. All the other books I've read are like okay enough to where I can read the sequel. But this one, I'm just, no, I don't want to read it. So sorry, I just didn't like it. So that's it. I'm going to try to do the recap video. And I know that holding this microphone probably looks funny, but it does help the audio. Even if I set it on the table beside me and I talk, it still rings up as really low. So holding it like this, it catches the audio a lot better. And I care more about the audio than I do the video because I can't do anything about the video, but I can do something about the audio. Anyway, that's all I have for this book. I don't want to hate on it too much. I just have to list everything I like and I didn't like. Thank you for watching.